So, welcome everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for the Women in Leadership Talk podcast episode. I am so excited today. I have one of my favorite people online. Her name is Ashley Houston. Ashley happens to be my favorite niece, but she's also this rock star mompreneur. She's a blogger, influencer, she's a publisher, content creator, social media consultant at Nashville Wifestyles. Yes, you heard that right. It's Nashville Wifestyles. Actually, she's, has this amazing lifestyle blog where she talks about fashion, lifestyle, but she also gets into getting real, which is what I love about her, and I love about her blogging that she does. And so today we're going to actually get into some real content about mental health. But before we do that, I just want to share with you in 2020, Ashley was actually nominated as one of the top 9 bloggers in the Southern United States. And amongst those honors was also Reese Witherspoon, which I have to say I was super proud. And I did blast you all over LinkedIn and all over my social media because I wanted people to know that, that you were honored with this incredible mention and designation. So congratulations on that. And we're super excited to have you here today. Ashley is probably one of the most authentic people that you're ever going to meet. Like, she will come on here, no makeup, just tears and all, and then also laughing and sharing her lifestyle at home with you. So it's really important that, our followers know she is this genuine person. And Ashley has also struggled with some mental health issues and still does. And she's not uncomfortable sharing that. And so super proud of her for bringing that forward today. So Ashley, welcome. And thank you for being here. So excited to have you.
Thank you. Thank you for building me up so high.
Well, I am incredibly proud.
Thank you. You are a little biased, but yes, I appreciate it.
Well, maybe just a tea-tad, but it's I've seen you grow up from a little girl who was not confident,
Yeah.
who was shy away and would, kind of hide behind other people, not really wanting to put yourself out there. And look at what you've done. I mean, the things that you have created here is just simply amazing. And, I know you have lots of followers and they follow you because of the realness of who you are. So let's jump in. Okay. Let's jump in and let's, first start with how you've become this superstar blogger. You've got a great following and you're a huge influencer, not just in Nashville, but you've got quite the following in Canada too, which I'm excited.
Thanks to you.
Well, I'm excited to to be able to promote you and just who you are. And you've done a lot of stuff. You've been on TV. You do incredible charity work. You're on the news regularly in Nashville, just sharing some of the stuff that you do. But let's talk about how did you even get into blogging?
Yeah. So I started my blog about actually 5 years ago exactly. This month, last month. And it basically, so I was in sales and then I had Keaton, my oldest daughter, and I decided to stay at home with her. But that just didn't challenge me at all. I mean, it did challenge me in certain ways. I just kind of like, once she started preschool, I just felt like something was missing and I was lost. And I talked to my husband about it, who was extremely supportive husband, and he encouraged me to start a blog. And he bought me, surprised me with a new Mac computer and a lovely light to when you take your picture, which is right here right now because it's so gloomy here today. And just I started rolling with it. And honestly, in Nashville specifically, it wasn't very oversaturated at that point. And so it was kind of like I was one of the OG Nashville bloggers. And that I really do think that helped with the success of it because there weren't a lot of people in the atmosphere. There are a lot now that have came up, but there weren't at the time. And so, it did help get my name out there a lot. And then honestly, it's just work ethic for me. And it's just my desire to make it into something. And I don't even want it to just be a blog. Like I want it to turn it into like a brand, which means, which is so weird when people say that about their like name, but like that is ultimately what I want to do. And I started as a fashion blogger, and then I got pregnant with my youngest. And so I kind of evolved it into lifestyle, which kind of just covers everything. And then over the past like year or two, I've been doing like my own journey with mental health and just sorting through my own issues and childhood issues and just things that were very, toxic to me and probably people around me, to be honest. And I've kind of been incorporating that more and more into my content. And it's something that I don't want to, turn it all the way into mental health, but I definitely want that to be this, maybe even the strongest focus of it, because I just think it's so important for us to nurture that each day for ourselves and the people around us. So
Yeah.
here we are.
Yeah, here we are. And it takes a lot of courage to talk about it, and again, what I've seen some of your followers sharing about you is the fact that you are real and that you'll open up, and you're not afraid to talk about, that things that are highly vulnerable. So it takes a lot of courage to be able to do that and just show up fully authentic. And
Yeah.
I also think that's why, you're not giving yourself enough credit. Like when you say, oh, I started out when Nashville, it wasn't that many bloggers. And it's the realness that you bring to it that gets people excited to keep following you and listen to you, because you're really opening up your life and sharing, which gives them permission to share as
Right.
well.
I mean, we got to stay humble, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Um, and I mean, sorry, my dogs are beside of me and they're snoring, and I'm really sorry if anyone hears that.
That's
It's
okay.
not
Even
me,
more real.
clearly. But yeah, I just think too, like, and no shade to, other people in the influencer industry, but it's a struggle for me as an influencer. I hate that word, but here we go. But because I see so many inauthentic people, and when you have these large amount of people that are following you, like you almost owe it to them to be real. And it's one thing if your content is, just fashion or whatever, because that's fine. Like you do your own thing and you just share the photos of outfits, but like there's just something to be said about like actually connecting with your audience. And I didn't start this, I started it as an outlet for creativity. So I didn't start this to become like Instagram famous or to have any type of notoriety. It was more just to get content out there and like connect with other women and support other women. And I'm really happy with the turn that it's taken recently, because once I started implementing mental health, and just for the record, I struggle very severely with anxiety, to the point to where it like controls my daily life. And most recently I've been kind of having some depression issues, and a lot of that unfortunately has to do with social media, even though that's my job. But that's the most responses that I've ever received over any type of content. I post a lot of beauty content. I love makeup and skincare, and that used to be it. And the amount of responses that I get for mental health and childhood trauma surpass that by bounds, And so it just shows me that people appreciate the real authenticity of what I share. And that's the number one, honest to God, that's the number one message that I get from my followers is thank you for being so real. Thank you for being so raw with us and sharing like the real sides, because it's such a hard, especially having good daughters, like it's hard for me as a 30-something-year-old woman to be on social media with the comparison and the picture perfect of everything. Can't imagine what's going to be from like my kids. And you just have to like stay grounded and be real, show this. You're seeing people's highlight reels on Instagram. That is not real life.
Yeah.
And it's important for me personally in the platform that I'm on to show the real parts and show them that it's not all glamour. I mean, a lot of times your feed is perfect. You're doing a lot of work with brands, so they want magazine worthy photography. But it's also important to incorporate the real within that too. Like you can do a balance of it.
Wow, that's great. You said a lot of things there that I want to just tap into, but where I'd like to go first, if that's okay,
Mhm.
um, let's talk about the anxiety,
Okay.
because especially right now, I mean, even if you've had struggles with anxiety most of your life, but people who've never had anxiety are actually experiencing it right now with the COVID and with the
Yeah.
pandemic. And there's so much conflicting information. It's hard to know, where to go and what to believe. But so when did you first recognize that you were struggling with some anxiety?
Like as a child, like I have vivid memories of having like dreams and waking up and not being where I wanted to be and like panicking because I was where I was. I remember laying in bed as like a preteen and so my brain works. I'm sure a lot of people with anxiety, is severe anxiety in particular, I spiral. And so I'll start thinking of one thing and then I start spiraling and just go to the worst possible thing. And I remember like laying there and being like, what happens after you die? And then just spiraling to the point to where like I couldn't breathe. And I think I was like 11 at the time. And I mean, it's just, it's went in waves as I've gotten older, and it just depends on, what the circumstances are. Um, what brings it on more. I will say, like, unfortunately, my anxiety has gotten a lot worse since I've had children, because not only am I worrying about myself, I'm worrying about them. And I mean, I am that person that I envision every possible worst case scenario. And not only do I envision it, I like spiral with it. So then I'm like laying in bed and I can't sleep because I'm like, what if the house catches on fire tonight? And then I'm like, maybe you shouldn't go to sleep, because if the house catches on fire tonight, you and your kids aren't safe. So it's like, that's what I meant earlier when I said it kind of can consume my daily life sometimes,
Mhm.
because it kind of ruins my day, or my evening, or whatever it may be. And it's hard to kind of get a grip on it once it starts, and you just have to like figure out different coping mechanisms. And I'm not the best at it because I still struggle, because I'm so stubborn and controlling to myself that I'm like, you can do this on your own. You don't need other things. And so it is a daily struggle. And COVID, obviously, I mean, I don't think it's probably gotten worse for me for COVID because I just had it already, but I can't imagine what it would feel like to have that come on and not know what was going on. I know what it is when it's happening. And I'm sure there's been a lot of ER visits of people, because I mean, initially when I started having actual panic attacks, I think I was like 19 or 20, and I went to the emergency room because I thought I was dying. And I wasn't. And so it's just, it can take over your actual body, not just your mind. Like it can give you, symptoms.
Of
It's
course.
scary.
Yeah. So you mentioned like some of the coping mechanisms. Maybe you could share
Yeah.
with our audience, like what are some of the things that you have done that have been successful and that kind of helps you to work through that process?
So I typically, some like medicines, I guess, that I would take on that route is I do take CBD oil, here and there. Um, I don't take medication. There's nothing wrong if you take medication. I don't do it because I have tried it before and it made me feel really numb.
Mhm.
And that was just my personal experience. But I will meditate. I listen to music sometimes. I will call someone close to me that's like very supportive of me. Um, typically, it depends on if someone's here with me, because a lot of times it'll happen when I'm driving, which is terrifying. So usually I'll call my stepmom sometimes. I've called you, I think. I'll call like your best friend. But usually the best thing that I do is just like go somewhere and like kind of meditate and just take deep breaths to try to like work through it. That's like the main thing that I'll do.
Okay. Okay.
You can't really do that when you're driving though, can you? So
No, it's kind of hard when you're driving,
I
but
just try to call someone to like distract me,
yeah.
because if not, I'll spiral. So then I just need to like channel that into something else and like distract myself, or even just like, you talk to me so I at least can hear your voice and I
Mhm.
know that I'm okay
Yeah.
during that time.
And I know that one thing that's been tough for you is the influence of your mom. I know that's been a big trigger for some of that anxiety. And maybe what you could share is some of the ways that you have even approached that.
Yeah. Sure. So yeah, I have a very toxic relationship with her. And she is diagnosed bipolar, and she is also manic depressive. And it's been like a roller coaster of emotions for me my whole life. I made the decision to finally cut her out of my life um, almost 2 years ago next month. And that was like a really hard decision for me because like that's your mom and you want to think that that relationship can be salvageable, but sometimes you just have to accept that it won't be, and that that person brings more pain to your life than joy. And when you're getting anxiety, like when someone calls you because you don't know what version of them you're going to get, um, it kind of takes over things, and it honestly was affecting my marriage even. And it was just like a really unhealthy situation. And so I made the decision to end it. And a lot of it, was stuff with my sister and whatever. We don't need to get into all that, but it's a really hard decision to cut out a parent. And it's something I still, struggle with because I feel guilty a lot. Because that is my mom, and she did give birth to me, but and I hope the best for her all the time. I really hope that she has the best life that she can have, but it won't be with me because I can't put myself through that anymore. And it's just, you have to really do what's best for you and your mental well-being. And if it's not something that's nurturing my best self, like it's not healthy for me. And I've had a lot of drama with her over the past 2 years when I did cut her out. And that's been a huge source of my anxiety because I don't like conflict, and to have conflict, heightens that, of course. And so but it's been pretty peaceful for the past few months. And so I feel like I'm at a good place now. And even if there was drama on her part, like it doesn't affect me like it used to. So I think I'll be okay.
Well, and thank you for sharing that. I know it's hard to share stuff like that, but
It is.
it is. And but what's important, I think, for yourself, but also for our audience, is, you've set some boundaries. And when you set those boundaries, you've been able to distance. It is hard. There's no question, because you have made that separation. But what you've also done as you're building your own strength,
Yeah.
right? You're taking control of how and what you choose to let into your life, into your daughter's lives, the impact with you and your husband. So that in itself, it takes a lot of courage, and it takes a lot of grit to be able to put those boundaries in place. So good for you. That's awesome.
Yeah, I think you just really nailed it on the head. And I wish I would have said that. Like, that's a perfect way to word it, is me creating boundaries. And we all have to create boundaries. And then, too, like taking control of your own life. So many people like just don't. And then they wonder why things aren't great. And I tell my daughter, my oldest daughter, that all the time. I'm like, you wake up every day, you decide how the day is going to go. You have to have a positive. Here I am talking like Nana. I know. But I really have became her. It's funny. But yeah, I mean, I really feel like it is our duty to ourselves to work on ourselves every day to be the best possible version of ourselves for the people around us. But for most importantly, like you need to show up each day for yourself, and you're not going to be happy with life until you do.
Yeah. Oh, that's beautiful. I love how you said that. And the other thing I want to say is a gift. I see it as a gift. Um, you have been such a inspiration or influence, right? So your influencing goes beyond blogging at Nashville Wifestyles, but even look at your sister, like Rachel, right? Like Rachel has blossomed into this amazing woman,
Yeah.
and happy, and you were a big part of helping her move away from that very toxic environment into a loving, caring place. And you've helped her understand how to put boundaries in place. So
Right.
your tentacles are spreading.
She has came such a long way. I'm so proud of her. And I all I offered her honestly was just support. Um, Everything that I mean, I was there for her and I tried to help her, give her ways to get to success, I guess you could say. But like not just like with our personal life, but just with like working, like she had never had any type of life experience at all. And she gets all credit for that. That's all her decisions to create boundaries. Like I can't even take credit for that because that was totally her. But I mean, I do think that once she realized that she had that support system, it was easier for her to maybe make her own decisions, and that's all we can really do for like anyone for that matter, is just give them that support. We can't make anyone do anything. It's your decision. You just want to be there to support them and rally behind them and be like their biggest cheerleader to help, make the best decisions for them. But I mean, even, the longest time when she, was even, and I never, told her to make any decisions, but like even when it was like awkward for a while, for example, when she had a relationship with our mother, and I never once was like, you shouldn't have one, like I just rolled with the punches. I mean, I just said, hey, you do what you need to do. This is how I am and how I'm feeling, but that has nothing to do with you. Like you do whatever you need to do, like, but they can't cross is my point. Like you have to respect my boundaries too. I'm respecting your boundaries. If you continue a relationship with this person, that's your decision. And I mean, eventually she did decide not to, but that had nothing to do with me. But I'm really proud of her for setting her own boundaries with everyone in her life. And she is such a strong, I'm ranting now, sorry.
No, that's okay.
Strong person. And I'm so proud of her growth. And I'm shocked, honestly, just how quickly she has grown and molded into this person. And I love that for her because she's so take charge. She was not, she was very passive and very insecure in a way. I mean, and I was too for a while, but she was just confident with work. Like she's awesome. She's doing great.
Awesome. Well, I want to pull that all back together here because there were so many things that you shared there. And I know we were talking about Rachel, but it's not just Rachel. It's also the people who follow you, right? And it goes back to, when you're experiencing mental health issues or anxiety, it is having that support system.
Right.
And it's what you're doing is building this community of support where you're helping people know they have permission to share, that there shouldn't be any shame in how you're feeling.
Right.
We can't help the way we feel, but what's important is what we do about how we feel. So
Right.
reaching out to someone and sharing that is a really big step. And you helped Rachel to do that without even consciously knowing that that's what you were doing. Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's, a lot of the times whenever I share stuff about anxiety, about childhood trauma, like people will say to me, like, thank you so much for sharing that. Like, it just feels good to know I'm not alone. That's the main thing I get. So many people just being like, it just feels good to know you're not alone. Because when you're going through that, even though you probably know that other people are dealing with it somewhere out there in the world, like most people don't tell you that stuff. So like, I mean, I had so many friends that didn't even know, the pain that I have been going through for the past, 35 years, with that whole situation. Like nobody even knew. And just to like share your story, whatever it may be, to let others know that they're not alone is so valuable. And you have no idea how valuable it is until you start doing it,
Yeah. No, it's so true. It's so true. And when you can help somebody, even if it's just to put a voice to how they're feeling,
Yeah.
like that's one step of helping them exercise that will, right? And that is
Right.
such an important piece. And the permission, right? Because when you said this earlier when we first started talking about how in social media, we do compare and we look at somebody's life and we think, oh gosh, that's such a glamorous life. I want that. And that can spiral people into, how can I ever have that? I'm not enough of that. And when you get real and you tell people what's going on, then they go, wow, that's not the picture I envisioned. Right.
Right.
And that's such an important piece because social media is great. It is great. And it's an awesome platform to be able to share things. But sometimes we get caught up on the things that don't really give us the true meaning of our lives that we want. And so I love what you're doing. And I'm going to circle back to what you said earlier about when you first started blogging, it was more of your creative outlet. So I'm
Mhm.
just going to shift a little bit from the mental health. Um, you know, that's an important piece because as a young person, you are always this great writer,
Mhm.
right? And so all of a sudden you've turned something that you were passionate about, something that you enjoyed and that you were really good at, you've turned it into a very successful business.
Yeah.
Like you're working with great brands like Wayfair, Pottery Barn. You did a thing with the Property Brothers for charity, which was amazing.
Yeah.
And I have to say, my favorite one was when you and Blake Shelton were hanging out and he had his arm around you. I was so jealous.
I did that just for you.
I love him. But I'd like you to talk about that a little bit because one of the things that I coach on a lot with clients is they don't know what they want to do, or they don't see that they have these gifts. And
Right.
you took your gift and turned it into your superpower.
Mhm.
So what helped you to really do that?
Well, I mean, so like I said, when I started, I honestly didn't know. I was probably like the people we were talking about, and I kind of was like, well, I don't even know like what I want to do. And I kind of just like went with like the way that everyone else was doing, which was kind of fashion blogging at the moment. And I was just like, I guess that's what I should do. And then honestly, I love fashion. I mean, I'm wearing a B&A t-shirt right now, but I do actually love fashion. But the truth is, I look like this most of the time. So I wore this t-shirt because I was like going to dress up, and I was like, that's just not me, so I'm not going to do it. But the truth is I wear like yoga pants and sweatpants or whatever most of the time because that's just me. And so I just felt really inauthentic, and I was struggling with it so hard because I was like, this isn't even real. Like I'm and this was before social media was even like crazy as it is now, but I just felt really fake. And so I kind of just geared it more towards like other things. And when I say my creative outlet, obviously I knew that I love to write, like you said, like I do love to write. I wish I had more time to actually write now. That's like my goal is to be more of a writer. But it takes way more time, obviously. And it's hard to close off the outside world to channel that. Um, when you're a mom and you have kids running around all the time, and I feel like I just need to check myself into a hotel and just write. But it's just like creating content for brands. Like that is really fun for me because I get to come up with ideas, and it's almost like, I went to school and I wanted to do advertising. That's actually what I wanted to do. And so it's like, I am kind of doing advertising. Well, I am doing advertising, not even kind of, but just through my channel. So I don't have anyone else telling me like how that creative direction will go. I get to do that. And that's really cool, that I get to choose how I'm going to market and advertise this brand. And I love that part of the creative outlet. And I think it's just like you kind of got to play around too, though. Like, unless you're dead set and you know what you want to do, like, you just have to see. And I just started like working and doing all the ins and outs. And there's so many things that are behind the scenes that you don't see. Like, some people would just be like, you just post pictures. I'm like, there are so many moving parts behind what I do, especially for like more lifestyle and creating content for brands. That it's not that, but out of all of that you do, what do you love to do the most out of that? And just zone in on that and focus on that, because like that quote that's like, find a job you love, you'll never have to work a day in your life. Like that's so true, because I mean, of course I get stressed, but like I love doing what I do. And so like it's fun for me. Like I feel excited every day when I'm like getting emails or whatnot. So I think that's what the end goal is, right?
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And I'm glad you shared that because, one of the things that's so important is we get caught up in the cycle of doing things because we feel trapped in doing it.
Right.
And I know you were doing sales when you first started blogging, and it was a little bit of this trepidation of, am I good enough? Can I do this? And then once you started doing it, you realize, wow, I have a real gift here. And that's another part that's so important for people to realize, is that all of us are unique in our own way, and we have our own superpowers inside. And so it's how we pull that out and
Yeah.
use those superpowers to fuel us. And so loving what you do every day is such a blessing and such a gift in
Yep.
itself.
Totally.
Yeah.
And I agree with you. I think it's just so important to kind of figure out your purpose. I randomly random share. I was in the shower the other day and I was like, I deep think in the shower because that's my only alone time. And I was just like thinking of just my life. I don't know. And I was just like, I was thanking God. I was praying and I was like, thank you so much for putting me through everything that you put me through, because I wouldn't have the story and I wouldn't be where I'm at. Maybe I'd be some entitled little brat. I don't know. But like, you're doing this for a reason. And I see that. And if you putting me through XYZ leads me to help other people be the best versions of themselves, like it was all worth it to me. And I really truly feel that way. Like a, Piper, a lot of it was awful. And I went through some really dark times, but like I'm really happy right now. And I have an amazing husband and I have two beautiful children that I love, and I have a roof over my head. And I'm just thankful for all of the joys that God has, brought me. And I wouldn't have had all of that if I hadn't went through the hard times.
Yeah, very true. Very true. That's awesome. It's awesome that you can see that as a gift, as what's helped to shape you. But also you're able to, share that with others as well.
Yeah.
So, just before I open it up to the audience, is there anything that you would like to share, sort of as, the big takeaway or the gift that you would like to share with the audience, with what you know now that you want to impart on them?
Yeah. So actually kind of circling back on what I just said, I feel like every day of our lives, we are giving obstacles, and it's a roller coaster. It's never going to be smooth sailing. We have to take what we are given and roll with it. And you have two paths to go down. You can choose the one that's going to take you down, or you can choose to look at the positives of it. And I mean, from personal experience, I'm sure all of us went through this, like this past year was awful. Yeah. There were some times that I was praying and I would be like, can you just give me a break for a second? Like this past fall was awful. It was literally one thing after another for me. But I really think that you are put through tests in life, and that determines kind of like where you're going to end up. And so like all these tests like that I was given in the fall, for example, and then I would just pray and I would be like, thank you for these blessings, even though like I know that it's going to get me to a higher point though, is what I'm saying with this. So everything that we are given in life is a test, and it's your choice every day to show up and to decide where you're going to go with that. And at the end of that tunnel, after all of the bad, there is something good waiting for you. You just have to fight through the bad, and look at it as a positive experience and as a lesson to bring you to like the best version of yourself that you can be. And I really, truly feel like that we need to live our lives like that each day. Like just try to see the good that we can.
I love that. Yeah, I love that. That's awesome. And so true. So true. I'm so with you on that. So how can our audience follow you? What's the best way for them to follow?
Oh, they can follow me all kinds of places. I have a blog, which is like actual articles, and that's just NashvilleWifestyles.com. On my Instagram, that's Nashville Wifestyles. My stories are just, I don't look like this on my stories. Like it's just me usually doing whatever I'm doing, talking, probably just like this podcast. And then I'm actually on TikTok and I share funny videos usually with Keaton. My husband hates social media, so he won't even ever be on there unless he's saying something funny and weird. But I mean, those are like my three main channels. Of course, Facebook. I share mostly everything that I share on Instagram to Facebook. So if you're not on Instagram and you're on Facebook, you go to my business page, which is Nashville Wifestyles. The same content funnels in there, so you'll see it either way.
Awesome. Awesome. Excellent. And just before we go to the audience, I just want to share this podcast will be downloaded on Apple, Google, Spotify. It's also downloaded to www.womeninleadershipempowered or WIL empowered.com. So you can hear it in any of those places, and would love for you to share with any friends that you have, especially if they're maybe struggling with some anxiety or mental health issues. And as Ashley, spoke about earlier, really important to have support and to speak up and speak out about what you're feeling, what you're experiencing. So I'm going to open it up now, Ashley, to our audience and see what questions we have. So if you guys want to turn on your videos, you don't have to, but we'd love to hear questions from you. And, please feel free. You can raise your hand or, just give me a reaction so I know you're looking to ask a question. I see lots of familiar faces, which is awesome. So what questions do we have?
Crickets.
Hi, Vicki. I have a question.
Hey, Dr. Cordetti. Yes, go ahead.
I'm curious about the organization side of things. And that's certainly something that I struggle with on my end when it comes to social media, just between managing all of the things I have to manage. How do you organize your approach?
Oh, I'm going to be 100% transparent with you. That is like my weakest part. However, I mean, if I had to say like my worst possible thing, it is that. However, I do try to every day or every week, set an expectation of like what I'm going to do each day, to kind of try to keep me organized, whether that is, I have drafts that are coming through, but usually like I'll try to pitch on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. I'll try to create videos if I need to on Wednesday. And I just kind of like set an expectation. That way I'm not just like thrown out to the wild, wild west on a Monday and trying to figure it out. So like, I'd say like, just if you're able to like schedule content, that's the best way because it's there and to post it. But it's hard because it is social media because it's just like free a lot, to stay, streamlined with it. But that's, like I said, that's literally my worst. I actually had a manager ask me the other day, what is your, like when you're in a job interview and they're like, what's your strengths and weaknesses? That was my weakness that I said. I was like, I'm really bad. I actually hired an assistant because I was like, I'm not that good at it. And so I let her handle a lot of it.
Fair enough. That's great. Thank you so much.
And you both have a lot in common because both of you have young children.
It is really hard with kids.
Yeah. Thank you for the question. That's awesome. Any other questions? Tuesday, did you have a question? I couldn't.
Yes, I do because Ashley, thank you. Nice to meet you. Thank you for sharing all your stories. It's really funny how we're connecting right now because I have finally decided to be a blogger. And Vicki knows I've preview the website I've been working on, but it took me forever to make up my mind and feel comfortable doing that. I'm way older than you. And I feel that blogging is like a young person thing. Why would I want to do that? And who wants to listen to, a mom like me? But anyway, I'm going through my midlife crisis and some mental issues stemming from my hormones. And I just feel like that, I feel a big loss of a sense of identity right now. And I'm trying to, and speaking and listening and speaking to many inspirational women like yourself, and you ladies help me, and then really motivate me and encourage me to do something that is totally out of my comfort zone in many ways. Right. And so just listening to you is inspirational. And I think my question is also, what would you advise me to do as a brand new blogger? What kind of tips would you give me?
Well, first of all, you're definitely not. There's no age limit on that. I have seriously tried to get my stepmom who's on here and my grandmother to start a blog because I think if you have something to say, you need to say it, whatever you're going through. So you just told me right there what you should be talking about. Mm-hmm. So people struggling with that, so think of how many people can identify with what you were just talking about to me. And that how many people you can reach just sharing your story about that, because so many people keep that deep inside. And even just sharing those moments right there would be a great start, So, I mean, that would be my advice is to just, what's your story? Figure out what's your story and how you can help those around you and then channel that. But I definitely
Yeah,
think that it's something you should go for, because if you have something to say, people deserve to hear it.
I think my challenge is that I get scared
Yeah.
and like, should I do it? And I keep going back and forth, and I've been procrastinating, trust me, for years on doing this. And I finally came up with the courage. And even though I'm in the process of doing it, sometimes I'm like, "Oh, I don't know if I'm doing the right thing." You know, you're self-doubting,
Yeah.
and that's my challenge.
I totally understand that. And I went through that too, but like, don't let that consume you. Like, just go for it. You're never going to know until you take that shot. And it's not something that's like an immediate thing. Just,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
start it right now, become comfortable with it. So then by the point to where you're starting to feel comfortable with it, it's like second nature to you, and you're helping others. But I mean, it's something that takes getting used to. Like, I mean, as humans, we're afraid to, fail, and you just
Mm-hmm.
have to take the leap. Trust me, I am like anxiety. We were talking about anxiety. Like, I
Right.
understand, because it's hard to like branch out to things that you're unfamiliar with. But I think that you just have to go for it. And the more you do it, even like subtly, the more comfortable that you will get with it, and the more confident you will get with it.
Thank you.
Vicky can tell you, I used to be the most shy person in the world. I would never go in front of the camera. If you even put me on the spot, I would panic. Now I'm on TV talking, and
Right.
which I'm still nervous when I do it. And I'm talking to you guys right now. And that's something like Ashley, maybe even 10 years ago, wouldn't have done. So you just have to jump out of your comfort zone, and you'll realize how much, like, when you challenge yourself, how much it helps you grow,
Mhm.
because you'll be doing
And
things in 5 years you never thought you would be doing if you just keep challenging yourself.
I feel we're like very similar in many ways. And if I think Vicky can tell you that I'm like totally out of my comfort zone right
Yeah.
now. Just feel so bare. But anyway, thank you and good luck to you.
You're welcome. Thank you. Good luck to you.
That
Thanks.
was awesome, Tuesday. And you know what? Think about, okay, sorry, I have to say this. So yes, you're out of your comfort zone right now, but think about how accomplished you feel and how good you feel when you approach something you don't know how to do, and then when you're successful at it,
Oh, 100%.
right?
Yeah.
Like it's huge. It's
I mean,
huge.
isn't that how we grow? Like, that's personal growth right there. Like, if we just stay where we're at, we're never going to succeed. Like, any successful person, whatever job it may be, you have to jump outside of your comfort zone. You can't stay, you're not going to grow. So
Exactly. Yeah, that was great. Thank
take
you.
the leap. Take the leap.
Take the leap. Anybody else before we wrap up? No, everybody's quiet.
If anyone does have a question that is not live on here, because I know a lot of people had scheduling conflicts, feel free to message Vicky or to message me on social media to ask any questions too. And right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I'll share the questions
Right.
and
Yeah, find us on Instagram and ask, because I know that a lot of times things go into the podcast world, and then if you have a question, feel
yeah.
free to DM.
Exactly. Great point. Thank you. Ashley, I want to thank you so much for joining us today and for being so fully authentic and vulnerable and sharing your story. You shared some really, great tips on, just how to cope with some of the mental health issues, but also how to become a blogger and how you did that and how you've continued to, be even more successful and where it feels purposeful and right for you. So thank you very much for doing that.
You're welcome.
It's great having you here. Thank you. I'm very proud of you.
Thank you.
And let me just mention to our audience, on April the 8th, we will actually be hosting Dr. Rachel Cordetti. Dr. Cordetti will be joining us to talk about hormones in a couple of different ways. We're going to be talking about fertility, but we're also going to be talking about menopause and how we manage those hormones. And so we have a great audience that ranges in ages and stages. And so we're going to be able to cover all aspects of hormones. So hopefully you can join us on April the 8th. Ashley, you got lots of love coming in the chat, lots of people sending you hearts on the reactions and thanking you for the great conversation today.
Thank you guys for having me.
Well, thanks for being here with us. Okay, everybody. Thank you. Thanks for joining us. And we hope to see you again very soon. Bye for now. Ashley, can you just stay on for a sec? Okay.